had it first, put it out that LSU was targeting LSU legend Kyle Williams to be the next defensive line coach here in Baton Rouge. And then Zenitz from 247 put it out that it was a done deal, that Kyle Williams will be the next defensive line coach here at LSU. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I was a tad bit surprised. Obviously, the name is one that's been floated around and talked about, and in the chat and on Tiger droppings and everywhere, that, you know, whenever the job opened up, this was one that just kind of worked because of the timing. Kyle Williams had just, you know, kind of stepped back from his position as Ruston High School's defensive coordinator to pursue other opportunities. And then obviously a couple weeks, maybe a month later, Bo Davis is headed to the NFL. The defensive line job opens up at LSU. In any LSU fan's mind, the puzzle pieces just fit together too well. But I, for one, did not expect this to be the move. And obviously, this was not LSU's first choice. They went after Gerald Chapman. They talked to Joyner at Ole Miss. They obviously talked to Davis at Missouri. Those weren't able to work out, whether it was choosing to stay at the school, if it was the money on either end, you know, different things like that. It didn't work out, and so LSU interviews Williams on Wednesday. He accepts the job yesterday on Thursday, and he'll be here today. Spring practice starts tomorrow. And so to me, that's the biggest win for LSU in this situation. One of the biggest wins is the timing. You're not having to worry and stress about who's going to be here for spring football. You got your guy. You can bring him in and make it happen. Outside of that, another win aspect of it is this feels like a long-term move. Mm-hmm. LSU's had a revolving door at defensive line coach, going all the way back to Coach O's era. You know, but obviously under Brian Kelly, he's gone from Jamar Cain to Jimmy Lindsey. He's had Chapman mixed in. He's brought Pete Jenkins in and Jancic in, and he gets Bo Davis, and that feels like the one that is going to be it. You've got your guy, the one that you've been trying to get for years. You don't have to worry about anybody else. You're
finally
stable.
Felt like you had stability.
Yes. And obviously, he leaves to go to the Saints. This, to me, has that same stability feeling where Kyle Williams is not going to come here to LSU he's definitely not going to leave to go to another university, because this man loves LSU, obviously. He's an LSU legend. He was an All-American early in the 2000s. He won a national championship in 2003. And so to me, this feels like a long-term move. So that's another win for LSU in this situation. But if you're looking at it on paper, you're going from Bo Davis, who is without a doubt the best in the sport when it comes to being a defensive line coach, to Kyle Williams, who has no college coaching experience, was most recently a high school defensive coordinator, but he is over a decade-long NFL veteran, LSU legend. You know, he's from the state. He's got connections all over the state. But when you're looking at it on paper, you're going from the best in the sport to an unproven guy that was a high school defensive coordinator.
But you're also getting this.
Bring it.
Belt to ass.
Ready for this.
Game is going to be won in the deep water. What do I mean in the deep water? Everybody's comfortable in the shallow end with 2 feet on the ground. All right? We live in the deep water. Woo! We live in the deep water where it's uncomfortable, where it hurts a little bit. That's where we live. And I'm not talking about playing hard. Everybody talks about playing hard. I'm talking about straining your guts. I'm talking about from the bottom of your feet. I'm talking about seeing sparks in your eyes, and it hurts. I'm talking about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
Tigers.
That's it, fam. I mean, that is. I mean, from that standpoint, because if that's all that coaching in college football was,
erect,
it's a great hire. Like, and I like the hire. It's a home run hire if that's all coaching in college football was, because he's going to get you fired up. The voice in the room is still going to be very strong. From a technique standpoint, this is a guy who played in the NFL for over a decade and was an All-American. He was a Pro Bowler in the NFL. He was great in college. He's going to be able to coach it from a technique standpoint. You know, and he's going to be able to get the rah-rah part. He's going to be able to get the rah-rah part locked and loaded from what you just saw. He's going to be able to get them fired up and ready to go and run through somebody's face. But there's a lot that goes into being a coach in college. You have to be able to recruit. I think he has potential as a recruiter, obviously, because he was a high school football coach. So he knows how to build a relationship with guys this age, and he's able to talk and do these things. And obviously recruiting is not as important from a relationship-building standpoint as it once was. Now it's just kind of what's the number on the dotted line, which I think, you know.
I wonder how that plays for him. Like, he's going to do what you just saw. He's going to sell you LSU.
100%.
Which is, like, rewind 5 years. This is like a 41-year-old at O. Like,
yes.
This is exactly the same thing. Like, he'll get in a fucking stance with you, and, like, he's going to only pitch LSU, and he's going to love it. That's what he, like, lives and breathes. And you can tell, obviously, the passion in which he has for football. Him being back at LSU, like that.
Right.
All of these things are massive successes. Like, check,
Yes.
check. The things that are question marks are, can you do it at this level, right? And also, this wasn't your first pick if you're LSU.
No.
You didn't go out and just – because it would have happened 5 days ago.
It would happen on Monday.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't think you had to sway him to come to LSU and be the defensive line coach. In that same breath, I'm also saying it's a defensive line coach. Like,
Yes.
It's not a defensive coordinator. It's not
Right.
But it is something that's an unproven commodity, but somebody that will have you'll be given every, like, I guess, all the leeway that you're going to get.
100%.
Like, he'll get all the slack that you want because he's a LSU legend. Like,
Right.
One of those guys that played under Nick Saban, stayed for his senior year, became an All-American, got drafted for the Bills, and never left.
Yep.
Like, you talk about stability. If he's able to coach it at this level, he ain't going anywhere.
Right.
Like, I would be shocked to see him. I mean, you could say the same thing for Bo Davis.
Yes.
But the Saints ain't hiring again.
Yeah.
And so you finally do feel like I'll gamble with anybody that you'll finally have a defensive line coach for 2 years in a row.
Yes. No, I agree with that statement. And so to me, it's the concern area is just the fact that you're bringing in a unproven, never been a college coach before, and this is the biggest season of Kelly's career. And so it comes from that you went and you tried to get multiple guys. It didn't happen. And not that I think Kyle Williams is a bad hire, because I don't. I like the hire. I see the potential and for it to work. It just, in the back of your mind, you have to think that this isn't the guy that LSU had circled and we're going to go get him. Because if they were, this would have happened last week. You know, the second Bo Davis was announced to the New Orleans Saints, the next day Kyle Williams' name would have been announced as LSU defensive line coach, but it wasn't, because they went and they kicked the tires elsewhere. They made phone calls. They did what they had to do. Those things didn't work out, and so they had to go get Kyle. That's where my concern is just the fact that
It wasn't your first pick.
it wasn't your first pick.
And it's
You know?
starting to feel like LSU's broke boys.
That's the discussion that, to me, is bigger than defensive line coach.
Well, I think it's a convenient excuse if that's the angle that you want to take, is
Right.
that LSU didn't want to pay a buyout and then pay a coach. It's like, I don't think that money is really the issue. If you want to pivot and say it's NIL related or revenue sharing related, where you want to save $300,000,
Right.
After you got 1.2 off the books.
Yep.
So I don't think that's quite the issue. I think you got turned down. I think it's been viewed as around the sport as a place that isn't stable because it hasn't been.
Right.
And so you're stepping into a position at LSU where a lot of expectations come with this. And you've looked around, Al Davis was a thing.
Yes.
Like, Long
yes.
wasn't just throwing shit at the wall. Like, there's multiple reports of, like, Al Davis had talked to LSU and it fell through.
Yep.
But LSU goes to the next one on the list. Like, they tried, like, what is it, Chapman from Florida?
Chapman.
Like, that was their
Joyner,
first call.
Yep. Randall Joyner at Ole Miss.
Second call.
Yep. And then Al Davis at Missouri was obviously Blake Baker's probably.
Yeah, like, I can help.
Yes.
And then it fell through.
Yep.
And so you go to, like, Kyle Williams is not, like, if there was odds set before this.
Yes. No.
not the betting favorite,
No,
but
not at
probably a fan favorite at this point because it is one of those hires that you like. This is like beers around the fireplace talk. Like, what if Kyle
Right.
Williams came and coached defensive line at LSU?
Right,
and You'd
right.
be fired up, and that's what happened. Like
Yeah.
LSU, and this is we talked about was it going to be a Woodward move, a BK move, or a Blake Baker move? This was like a Woodward.
This
move.
is a Woodward move, and like 100%. And I text Lloyd yesterday that it felt like a Woodward move.
Yeah.
And
if it's a BK move, buddy, there's a new golfer in town.
Right. Yeah.
He's a single digi handicap.
Get ready.
Single digi
Yeah.
handicap at Squire Creek. Not easy.
Yep, get
so
ready.
they'll figure something out.
Level of competition just got raised. But yes, I like I said, I do see this hire working. I like the hire. There just are concerns. But like Lloyd said, this is the defensive line coach. It's not the biggest deal. It just still hurts that you had Bo Davis, and now you don't.
There was no hire that was going to exceed
Right.
what you got whenever,
Right.
like the expectation of when you brought
whoever
Bo in.
you brought in,
Right, it wasn't
going to be a
yeah,
letdown.
because of how, like Bo Davis was not only pitched, but he had the resume. Like, and what you
Yes.
did to get him, like peeled him away from Texas. And you're like, okay, finally, like come home.
Yeah.
Like that's where you can, like maybe we fast forward 5 years, like what a hire.
Right.
Like Kyle Williams is still here. He might be the goddamn head coach.
Yeah.
At some point,
100%.
because that's happened before.
Yes.
But like you did. I don't think there was another name on the list outside of Bo Davis that was going to be like
at all.
an upgrade in terms of just name, resume, and what they've done in the sport.
Not at all.
But I mean, it's hard not to. This is the LSU side of me,
Yeah. Oh my
where
gosh.
like you think about it, you're like, this could be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and even just watching that video that you
Yeah,
put on the
I'm
screen,
done.
Like that.
Post-coital.
Yeah, how would this not work?
I do want to go in the deep water, and I can't swim.
What? Right, but I'll be there with you. I'll be in the deep water.
He's gonna. Oh, there's gonna.
No, I mean, you remember the videos of Bo Davis getting loud and rowdy and in these guys' face at practice. That's what I'm saying. I don't think the voice in the room is going to change that much. Just from an emphasis and a power
Standard
perspective.
is the standard.
Yes, and that's the part that I love.
Yeah, you're gonna love him.
Is that when we go out there and practice, it's not going to be no halfway on the defensive line. Like, he's going to have them coached up and ready from a technique perspective and rock and roll. And so I think it's going to work.
And there's such thing as halfway crooks.
It's just the fact that it wasn't your first choice, and it's an unproven guy. Never been a college coach before. And we talked about it with LSU. Is LSU in the arena of getting guys to come prove it or going to get proven guys? This is one that is an LSU legend. Like Lloyd said, he'll have the leeway. It's going to work from a money perspective because he's not going to ask for too much because he made $60 million in the league. It's going to work from a dynamic perspective because he's going to fit it right in with Kevin Peoples and Blake Baker and just football guys on this staff. And from a timing perspective, like, so many things line up and make it make sense. And so I like the hire. I think this ultimately, in the long run, will be good for LSU. I will be interested to see the dynamic here in his first season as the D-line coach because it's a big one. Like, this isn't – there's as much leeway as he will get because he will. He will not be fired. He is going to be the long-term guy, in my opinion. The pressure is going to be on to get these guys to perform and to be able to recruit the position because not only are you going to be getting these guys to play that are on the team, we've talked about it, Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson. This is a big-time recruiting class for defensive tackle in the state of Louisiana. And that's why, to me, the stability aspect is such a big deal, is because it's not going to be recruiting these guys and saying, oh, well, now I'm leaving for a job. Be like, no, I'm going to be here for your entire LSU football career. That's something that a defensive line coach
He's gonna get buried under
hasn't
the
done.
goalpost.
And I'm all for it.
Yeah.
100%.
That is the one thing, like, if you want to find, like, one net positive, it's at
The
least
biggest win.
What has it been, 8 defensive line coaches over
In 6
in
years.
6 years? That's insane. Like, obviously, you had the Jimmy Lindsey situation, which was unfortunate, but that was, like, par for the course almost at this point where you can't get a guy to stay more than a year.
Right.
Or even get him to coach.
Yes.
And so you finally do have something. Unproven is the word that's going to be tossed around a lot. And you really can't make a judgment on it until you see it on the field. Like,
Yep.
we talked about it whenever Lindsey was replaced and you didn't have a defensive line coach, it's like, this looks bad.
Right.
Like, they're 4 yards off the ball. Like, everybody was looking at, like, you could watch you didn't have to know a whole lot about football to be like,
no,
they're not very close to the line of scrimmage.
Looks wrong.
Like, is that a thing? I was like,
Right.
I don't think so, but I think, so that won't happen.
Yes. No.
And you just finally have, like, whether it be good on the field or not, like, at least he has leeway. But it should be. I mean, he knows how to play the position. Whenever he's an undersized guy, they made it 15 years in the league,
right?
And was an All-American at LSU. Like, he shouldn't have played at all.
Oh yeah,
but that's all.
He's going to coach
have
it up.
to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from a coach up technique perspective, and a raw perspective. I mean, it's a home run.
If you could put together a former staff of all LSU players, where would you go? I mean, Tyrann Mathieu is obviously on the list.
Yes, obviously. I mean, obviously, your quarterback's coach.
We're doing Burrow already?
I mean, it would be Joseph. Yes. And then
Brian Perrilloux?
wide receiver coach, wide receivers coach.
Jarvis.
Yeah, that's what I was.
No, you ain't. Yeah,
100%.
God, Lord, they might die out there.
That,
if you have
I mean,
Jarvis,
I still can think of that
Kyle
clip.
Williams and Tyrann Mathieu.
Dude, that clip of him from Hard Knocks.
Oh,
where you're talking about
Tyrann Mathieu, same thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
top tier content. Yeah, no, I mean,
running backs coach Leonard Fournette.
Dude, come on.
Devin White.
Nice.
Dude,
yeah.
Devin White.
Yeah.
I had it locked in.
Cordell Music in the chat. If Williams was coaching at Nicholls State for 4 years, the concern would still be he's been coaching at a lower D1 level.
Yeah, no doubt.
No experience power. 100%. 100%. That would still be the conversation because the unproven and proven thing, it's a real thing. Like if you are LSU, you want to be working in the business of proven guys, proven commodities at positions.
Oh, Patrick Peterson, your secondary coach.
Yep. Whitworth, O-line coach.
Oh God.
Come on.
I don't know where Laurent landed. I mean, Jesus Christ. These people can't get in a fight together.
No. Oh my gosh.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah. What? But all in all, the moral of the story, this is a good hire for LSU. It checks a lot of boxes. It gets a lot of things done. There will just be one word that's going to be the highlight of it, and I understand why. It's going to be unproven. And then, but the one to me right underneath it that should be just as big is stability. That's one of the biggest wins for this hire for LSU. Is that you're not expecting another staff turnover at this spot for a year after one season? You know, you're going to see it go over time. This feels like a long-term move, which is the biggest win for LSU because it's a position that, like we said, 8 and 6 seasons, unheard of. And this definitely feels like something that's long term, and it's not gonna happen like that again. So all in all, it's a win for LSU because they get a stable presence at D-line coach, and not only that, you're not having to pay a buyout, you're not having to sign a fat check to your new D-line coach, which means that money you got back for Bo Davis, it goes back in the pot on Richard Anderson or these other big time recruits.
I know this is like, I don't want to say even small potatoes, but it is like Ahmad Brozappy.
Oh, 100%.
Like he played for him.
It's not small potatoes because Ahmad Bro could have 100% disliked the guy they brought in and hit that spring window.
I would love to have that conversation with Kyle Williams. If you're like, I don't know if I want to play or good, go.
Yeah. All right.
Like, yeah. Bye.
I mean, so that to me is one of the biggest wins is that I'm not expecting a big turnaround in this spring window because these guys are going to be bought in with Kyle Williams. I mean, think about the way Don McKinley, like Kyle Williams was able to do it as an undersized defensive tackle.
I had your tools.
Yeah, well, guess what? You're 6'6" and you're a monster.
You're 5, yeah.
I'm going to turn you into a freak.
Well, that's what they're saying in the chat now that we've had this conversation about coaches, from former LSU players coaching. It's everybody's LaRon Landry as your strength and conditioning coordinator.
my
It's like,
goodness.
we'd all be pissing hot.
Yeah, I mean, instead of we're handing out no more milkshakes, we're handing out
That would be
needles.
awesome.
We're handing out needles, cuz.
Playmakers is back.
Chocolate milkshake. Oh, needle just fell out the.
That's
Hey.
The thing about steroids is they only catch you once. Like Jason Giambi proved that true. He got caught, then immediately just got back on the sauce. Like they'll
Right.
never test me again.
Right. Yeah. What? I mean, they called me once. They're not going to try
I mean,
again.
LeBron was working out in a collared shirt. This is business.
Yeah.
Like you're terrifying.
I mean, this is a meeting.
That poor guy from Kentucky is like every
Oh my gosh.
like the lowest quality JPEG you can have that was everybody's background for like 4 years.
Yes.
Was him just standing over that white from Kentucky. I was like, I think he killed him.
Yeah, took a life. Cordell, once again in the chat, you got to start somewhere. Warren Sapp is coaching at Colorado, and that D-line improved once he got on staff. No, I agree. This is in this day and age, you are seeing it more often than not. Colleges go get former NFL stars. I mean, Coach Prime, Warren Sapp is getting brought in. You've got Eddie George, at Middle Tennessee State. Ed Reed got hired. Deshaun Jackson just got hired
Michael
somewhere.
Vick.
Michael
You
Vick
can move
got
into
hired.
basketball, Penny Hardaway.
Penny Hardaway, like college sports, they're hiring these guys. LSU's getting in on the mix, and they're coming to get they got Kyle Williams as their defensive line coach. I like the hire. It checks a lot of boxes. I'm excited to get out to spring practice and see what it looks like. Because like Lloyd said, when we were at practice, I would ship Christian off to the skill guys. Lloyd would sit on the bleachers and watch the quarterback. Whatever. I'm locked in on the trenches, Coach.
Big skills guy.
I'm watching the offensive line and the defensive line get after it, and I'm excited to see Kyle Williams in that room.
Oh my God.
It's going to be top tier stuff. When you're talking about from a technique perspective, from a coaching perspective, and not even to discount what he did at Ruston.
Right.
I mean, that was year in, year out one of the best defenses in high school, in Louisiana high school football.
And he did it like
Three straight
quickly.
state championships. They only won one, but they made it to 3, and he made it happen at the drop of a hat. He's got relationships with a guy like Ahmad Bro, Aiden Anding coming in. Don't forget Ahmad Hudson, the 6'8" dual sport monster that's a sophomore in high school at Ruston right now. He does have coaching experience, so as much as he is unproven in the college sport, he did a heck of a job
that's the
coaching
other
it for the
thing.
Bearcats.
It's not like he hasn't coached. That would
Right.
be a
Bigger concern.
That would be a leap too far. If
Right.
he's like, oh, let's go get a former player at LSU. Like, do you want to coach here? Instead, it's okay, you've coached at least at the high school level, and you were successful in like 5A, Ruston football, state championships. You've proven that you could at least reach out to some of these guys
Right.
and like coach them up.
100%.
And now you just get it's a massive leap, but it's not one that's like, oh, go get Andrew Whitworth. Like, he's not coaching.
Yeah, he's on TV.
You're right. Like, I get it. Or like
Right.
Kevin Mawai.
Yes.
Like, everybody wanted to hire him for the offensive line. Like, he doesn't coach. He's just played here whenever LSU football was awful, and he's a Hall of Famer.
Cordell Music says if it was Glenn Dorsey, the concerns would be a little quiet. LOL. I don't agree with that.
Bring him in.
I mean, it would be awesome, just like this is awesome. I think the concerns would still be the concerns.
Yeah.
And almost more so because of the coaching experience. Like it is a real conversation. Like, I don't want to act like this is a real conversation to be had. Proven and unproven college coaching experience and not. It's a